Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. My name is Linda. Here on this channel, I share videos about sewing, pattern drafting, and everything fashion. On today's episode of pattern drafting, I'm going to be sharing with you guys how to draft and cut a Princess Bustier for a very busty person. So if you are to make a client's dress of bust 44 and above, then this video is definitely for you. In this video, we're also going to talk about the steps you need to take to get different cup sizes. So if you haven't already hit the subscribe button, I suggest you do so right now to get more videos like this and more content like this whenever I upload a new video, so you'll be among those that are getting notifications for the video. Let's dive in. So guys, I have my pattern paper ready for drafting this tutorial, and the first thing I'm going to do is to classify the different types of busts under their cup sizes. So I got a request on how to draft a bustier for a bigger bust size from the comment section, and here, as you can see, I have prepared it already. This is the cup size and their differences. So we have A cup, we have B cup, we have D cup, and the rest. So majority of us don't know the difference when somebody says they are having A cup for their bra size or for their bust size, or B cup or C cup, given the case as it may be. So I've gone ahead to prepare it in a simple terms for you guys to understand. Okay, in order to determine the cup size of a person's bust, two things are involved. One is the bust circumference, and the second one is the band or the under bust circumference. So the difference between the bust circumference and the under bust circumference is what will result to the cup size. So as you can see on my list here, I have the A cup all the way down to the J cup. Let's say, for instance, a woman has a bust circumference of 44 inches and the under bust circumference is 34 inches. So we are going to subtract 34 inches from the 44 inches bust circumference. The difference there is 10 inches, which will result to the cup size. So in this tutorial, we're going to be drafting a bustier for a cup size of bust 44 and above. Bust 44 and above. So the DDD/F and DDDD/G to HIJ are way more higher than the average. So I'm going to be drafting the ones that are higher than the average. Okay, so this AAA to A is for a smaller cup, and for people with small boobs, we have 1 inch difference for that. For the B cup size, we have 2 inches difference. And for the C cup size, we have 3 inches difference. Then for the D cup, we have 4 inches difference, and so on. We also have the double D/E cup size, which is 5 inches difference. And then for the triple D/F cup size, we have 6 inches difference. And for the DDD/G cup, will have 7 inches. The same thing goes for the H and IJK. So the higher the cup size, the higher the difference. And as you can see, all the differences are written in inches. So I made few examples on how to calculate your cup size using the bust circumference and the under bust circumference. As you can see here, I wrote bust circumference minus the under bust circumference equals to this cup size. So example, we have 41 inch bust minus 38 inch under bust. The difference there is going to be 3 inches. So when you take away 38 inches from 41 inches, the total result of what you have is 3 inches, which will result to the C cup. Okay, so 3 inches is the C cup given the table I gave initially. So this is the table I arranged. So this is the C cup, which falls under 3 inches. Next, we have 40 inches bust circumference minus 34 inches under bust circumference. The result is going to be 6 inches. Okay, the difference is 6 inches, and that will result to cup size of triple D. So we have triple D/F, which is the same thing as 6 inches difference. So it's not about the number of your size, it is the difference between the bust circumference and the under bust circumference that will give you your cup size. A person can have bust of 40 and their under bust is 39. If the difference is 1 inch, that means they are said to have the A cup size. Another person can have the same bust circumference of 40 inch and an under bust of 30 inch. So when you minus the 30 inch from the 40 inch bust circumference, the difference you get is 10 inch. That means the person falls under the J cup size, which classifies as very busty. So we are going to be working with the bust size below the average, okay? From this part is known as below average, and I'll show you the tips and hacks you can use to achieve the cup size when you are drafting a Princess Bustier blouse or gown, as the case may be, for busty people. So I was given a measurement for this particular person, and I'm going to leave it on the screen. So as you can see, we have two groups of measurements for this. The first one is the vertical measurement, while the second one is the horizontal measurement. The vertical measurement comprises of three measurements. We have the bust point, the under bust, and the half length. So for the bust point of this person, it's 11, and the under bust is 15.5, while the waist or the half length is 18 inches. So I'm going to show you how to include the vertical measurement. On your pattern paper, go ahead and place your tape from the tip of the starting line in a vertical way like this, and then measure your points, okay? Measure those points with stated in the vertical measurement. Then for the horizontal measurement, we have the shoulder, which is 18 inches. We have the bust circumference of 44 inches. We have the under bust of 34 inches, and then we have waist circumference of 34 and bust span of 9 inches. To place your horizontal measurement, you need to place your tape rule around the body of the person, measure the roundness, and then place the quarter of what you got on your pattern paper in this way. So to impute these measurements, the first thing we are going to do is mark the shoulder measurement. 18 inches divided by 2, I have 9 inches there, and I'm going to label this as the shoulder. So I'll go ahead and come down by 1 inch from this part for the shoulder slope. Go ahead and drop your tape this way and then mark 1 inch. And after you're done, the next thing to do is to mark the neckline measurement. So I'm going to be marking a standard neckline of 3 inches width and 3 inches depth. This is not the neckline I chose to use for this tutorial, but just go ahead and mark the desired neckline for the person you're making the dress for. So I'll go ahead and connect those points with my curve ruler, just like you see me doing, and I'll also label it as the neckline. After I am done with that, the next thing I'll do is to connect the shoulder slope to the tip of the neckline like this, and then I'll go ahead and place my tape rule to get the depth of the armhole. Okay, so for the person's measurement, I don't have the armhole depth measurement. What I'm going to do is to simply calculate the bust circumference divided by 6 inches plus 1.5. So 44 divided by 6 is 7.5 plus 1.5 inch, which will give a total of 9 inches. So I'm going to place my tape rule this way from the shoulder slope I marked, and then I'll be marking 9 inches and then connect the line. So draw a line from that point to the shoulder slope and then draw another line just like this. Next, I'm going to place my tape rule this way from the tip of the shoulder, and I'll measure the vertical measurements. Okay, so I'll mark the point where the bust point is. We'll have 11 inches in this case, and then for the under bust, instead of marking the 15.5 inch, I'll go ahead and deduct it by half of an inch and mark 15 inches. Then I'll mark 18 inch for my half length and also connect the line. Now, after I was done with that, I'll go ahead and label this part as the chest line and this point as the bust point line. Okay, then we have the under bust line, and also we have the waistline or the half length. Next, I'm going to impute the bust span. Bust span is 9 inches divided by 2 is 4.5. So I'll go ahead and mark 4.5 on my pattern paper. But if you are drafting directly on your fabric, go ahead and make it up to 5 inches, because you'll be needing half of an inch to join to these middle parts together. But since you are marking on your pattern paper, you will still cut it on 4.5 inches, but you need to add it back when you're cutting on fabric. So I'll go ahead and mark it on the bust points, the under bust, and the waistline. And then after I am done, I'll go ahead and connect it into a straight line. So I'll label this as the bust span or the nipple to nipple line, because that's where our dart is going to be taking shape. So to get the dart for the armhole area, I will go back to the armhole depth and measure what I have there and get the midpoint, and then from that point I'll be marking, and then from that part I'll be marking 0.75 inch for the armhole curve. And then I'm going to use my curve ruler to create the curve. Before creating this curve, we don't have our bust measurement, so we'll go ahead and impute the bust circumference on this chest line. So we're connecting these dots together with the other one to make up for the curve. So just place the quarter of your bust circumference on the chest line. We'll have 11 inches in this case, so I'm going to make a point there, and this is going to guide me to create the armhole curve. So connect the 3 points there to get the curve. So guys, after getting the armhole curve, I'll still go ahead to get the midpoint. I'll place my tape rule this way and check the overall length of the curve, okay? Not the straight one, I mean the curve we just achieved. So place your tape rule this way and then gently rotate it to check the length of this curve. In this case, I have 11 inches and half of that is 5.5 inches. So I'm going to be marking what I got here. So guys, after I was done with that, I'll go ahead and impute the dart intake for this armhole dart. So I'm making sure to place 1 inch on both sides of the line. Okay, so I have 1 inch on both sides, and then I'll come down to this part. Normally, if I'm marking a dart for a smaller bust, I'll just mark 1 inch on both sides. But for a busty person whose bust is, for example, like DDD and above, there's a way I share the number of that difference for that cup size. Okay, so let's say this is 44 inch for this person, and you are going to take away 34 inches of the under bust, and what we have left is 10 inch difference. So I'm going to be sharing this 10 inch in between these darts. Okay, so we are going to share the 10 inch into 2 first of all, and we'll have 5 inches. Now the first 5 inch will be shared in a ratio of 3:2. If you are to include the 5 inch all at once on this part, that means we'll be taking out a lot of fabric. We're going to be wasting our fabric and our paper. So this is why I shared it in a ratio of 3:2. So I'll be marking 3 inches around this part, and I will show you guys where to mark the remaining 2 inches. So on the center front I marked 1 inch, and on the side front I marked 2 inches, making up to 3 inches. I'll just go ahead and duplicate the same measurement I made on my underbust on the half length. So I'm going to connect the point I made on both lines in a vertical way. Now I'll head over to the bust point area. I'm going to share the second part of the 5 inches mark on both sides of the bust point. So I'll mark 2.5 inches below the bust point, and I will mark another 2.5 inches above the bust point. This is because the person is very busty, so I'm marking 2.5 to accommodate the size of the bust around the bust point, so as to create more room for the bust. So the bigger the bust size, the bigger the mark you make on your tape. Okay, let's assume you are making for a smaller bust. You usually go down by 1 inch and 1 inch upwards, but in this case the person is busty. Go ahead and mark 2 inches to 2.5 inches. If the person's bust is more than 44 inches, go ahead and mark 2.75 to 3 inches. So in this case, for size 44, I'm marking 2.5 inch below and 2.5 inch above. So this is going to make up for the second part of that 10 inch difference we got to distribute around the bust. Now I'll go ahead and connect a curve from this point to that 2.5 inch mark I got. When making this connection, endeavor to make it less curvy so your cup doesn't look funny. Just mark a very slight curve just like you see me doing, and after you're done, go ahead and repeat the same thing on the other one. So the inner part is supposed to be somewhat straight and not curvy. You can still go ahead and make use of your straight ruler for this. So here we have 3 inch, and on this part we have 2.5, okay, and on the other side as well we have 2.5, making up 8 inches. Now we still have to balance the 2 inches we kept aside for this to make up for the overall 10 inches. So I'll go ahead and place my ruler this way to connect a line to that 1 inch I made initially. This 1 inch will make up for that 10 inches. So we'll have our dart around the armhole, which is 2 inches in total. And calculating everything as we have done, we have 10 inch. So now I'm going to connect the rest of the curve with the curve ruler. Place your curve ruler this way to get the perfect curve you want to achieve, and then connect. This will help you to eliminate sharp points. After I was done drawing the curve, this is what it looks like. So I'm going to be replacing all these dots I'm taking out. Remember, we have 2 inches here and we have 3 inches here, which is 5 inch, and then we have 2.5 inch here above the bust and below the bust, which is 10 inches. Now, in order to get equal sides of this bustier, we need to replace the dots by extending this part by extra 2 inches and connect. This is going to help us to get equal sides whenever we are attaching them together. So I'll still replace the same 2 inches on this part. So go ahead and place your tape rule this way and then mark the 2 inches so that when you are joining, you don't fall short of fabric. So this automatically becomes our new armhole curve. Next, I'm going to be imputing our body measurement. So circumference of the bust divided by 4 is what I'll be marking on the chest line and also on the bust points line. At the under bust, I'll be imputing the quarter of the under bust circumference. So we'll have 34 divided by 4, we have 8.5. The same thing we have on the under bust is what I'll be imputing on the half length because it's the same measurement. Now I'm going to be replacing the dots around the under bust and the waistline. So go ahead and mark 3 inches each on the under bust line and also on the half length and connect with your ruler. After you're done connecting your lines, go ahead and include your sewing allowance of about 1.5 inch to 2 inches. It's better to have an excess than to have shortages so that you can be able to trim it out later on. So I'm going to label this as the sewing allowance, and this part becomes the side front while this part becomes the center front. So I'll go ahead and also include 1/2 inch on the shoulder slope like this to include the shoulder joining, and also at the waistline as the waistline joining, and then I'll be marking the lines with my ruler before cutting everything out. So guys, this is what I had after I was done cutting out my patterns. I'm just going to take away the excesses aside and then I'll be working with the main patterns. So this is how it looks like after I was done cutting. I'm going to open it up on the front side for you guys to see. This is the center piece and this is the side piece. So this is going to be the side front 1 and this is going to be the side front 2. Note that you can use the same method I used for this to get the bigger bust sizes. So I went ahead to notch this point around the bust points so that I'll have equal balance when I'm stitching them together on my fabric. And again, if you want to achieve your off shoulder measurement, go ahead and place these two together like this and then measure your armhole. Okay, you're going to come down from the shoulder line by 5 inches or 4 inches as the case may be, depending on how deep you want your off shoulder to be. So for this case I have 4 inches. I'm just going to place a mark there and then connect it to the other side. So if you are to mark an off shoulder Princess Bustier, this is what it's going to look like after you are done marking. It's as simple as ABC and it will make the drafting very easy. Now I'm going to try as much as possible to join the patterns together using my pins, so you see how it's going to look like after stitching it on fabric. So gently go ahead and join the nipple to nipple measurement, which is the bust point, and also go upwards and join the armhole together. Make sure that you pin your fabric first of all so that you have equal length on both sides. So after you're done pinning, go ahead and stitch it on the sewing machine by 1/2 inch. So you always stitch by 1/2 inch, which is the same as 0.5 inch. So guys, after pinning, this is what it looks like. I'll just go ahead and adjust it a little bit. This is what it will look like on your fabric when you're actually stitching them together. Always remember to stitch by 1/2 inch, and at this point you must have given your extra 1/2 inch joining allowance on your fabric, okay? So this is just it for this tutorial today. Please remember to subscribe, like, share and comment what you think about this tutorial. Leave a comment on your cup size if you have followed this tutorial. I'll see you guys in my next video. Thanks for watching and bye for now.